Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome. Okay, here we are. We all made it. Post-Milton. And our hearts go out to those who are still struggling and dealing with Helene and Milton. And this is kind of where these teachings that we discuss and practice on a Sunday morning really do have their inestimable worth. Because one of the things that these deeper contemplative practices already assume is that the world is not a happy place. It's not a stable place. It's not where you can actually look and find lasting happiness and peace. And so in every tradition you find a taking refuge in something that's more real and solid than the ephemeral, ever-changing world and the body. Because all of this, as we looked at last week in our discussion on impermanence, arises, abides for a little while, and passes away. And so how could we ever find contentment or peace in the impermanent? Especially when this impermanence can suddenly come upon us unexpectedly like a hurricane or a tornado. And everything that we've invested our entire life in is gone in a matter of minutes. And so what do you do with that? Who are you in the face of that? That's what these teachings really aim at pointing out and revealing to each and every one of us, that we're not at home in the world, and our identity is not found in the body. And there's something deeper and more real, more lasting and secure that will bring us contentment, that will bring us unshakable peace. But we have to have this willingness to discover what that is. And that's really what brings us into the direct experience, is our own willingness. And so in light of the deeper teachings this morning, and every week we kind of give you a different taster, you know. We're going to be tasting the teachings of Advaita Vedanta, the non-dual teachings of ancient India. Many say that this is at the root of Buddhism. And so what the Advaita teachings are basically getting at, and you'll hear it in the name Advaita, that's Sanskrit for not two. There's no two-ness, so dve in Sanskrit equals or is two, and that negative prefix is the letter A at the beginning, so Advaita, no two-ness. That's the nature of reality, say the seers, the sages, the wise ones who have experienced the heart of being, or the heart of awareness. So when we come home to who we really are, we realize that the split and the fragmentation that we experience through the five senses is illusory. And that's why it has that ephemeral quality. They often use the allegory or the metaphor of dream. This idea that is the landscape of the sense fields are always changing. They're never stable, much like a dream is always changing. So to find peace is to find this deeper heart of awareness which knows, not believes, but knows that reality is oneness or unity or not two. And it's very interesting too when you look at this way of description, when they say Advaita or not two, they're not saying one. Right, so the idea of oneness implies that there's the opposite of manyness that could also be experienced in the oneness. What the Advaita or not two-ness is it can't be thought. Right? You can't think of this. This is beyond what the mind can do, and this is why the teachings show up in three stages. Okay? So the first stage, according to the non-dual teachings or the Advaita teachings, is you hear them, shravana. So you're listening right now, right? This is the first stage of entry. You get to hear these teachings, and that alone, say the sages, is quite a blessing. That not everyone comes upon these teachings to even hear them. And then the hearing, if you're willing, will produce the second stage of contemplation, and that is you begin to mull them over in your mind. You begin to think about them, manana. So manas is the thinking mind. And so you start to think about them seriously. You consider them. Is it possible? Are these in any way, something that I am looking to experience? Do I want to know more? So that second stage is you're starting to internalize. The listening is from the outside coming in. You can keep your doors and windows shut and not let these teachings in. But if you are willing to go to the next stage, you're letting them in. You're internalizing them. You're thinking about them. You're becoming more intimately involved with them. And then as this thinking and conceptualizing process begins to cook, these teachings carry a potency. And this potency, as you begin to chew on them, masticate them, you begin to digest their nutrient value. And you begin to actually assimilate them. And so you chew the food, you assimilate it, and then it goes into that third and final stage where it literally becomes part of your cells, just like when you're eating. And that's nididhyasana. You literally begin to experience them. You're beginning to see from the view of non-duality. It's not a concept anymore. It's not something that you just heard about. You're now looking from this place of direct experience. And so this is where it becomes a memory of knowing who you are. And so we're going to be looking at these teachings this morning, hopefully experiencing them as well. Because as we realize in this process of taking what is at once or at one point foreign or outside of us, and then making it so that we become it. This is a process. And the process can take many years, it can take many months, it can take minutes. It can happen right now. So we don't know. What really is driving it all is your willingness. And this gets to the next stage of our conversation. We have to prepare the ground. So when we're listening to these teachings, we're oftentimes hearing them through the filters of our pre-existent biases, our belief system, our habitual way of thinking and being that's oftentimes unconscious. And so we will oftentimes, avoid or not listen wholeheartedly because of the way that we've been preconditioned. So this is one of the aspects of the teaching is you begin to have to control your mind, self-control. You begin to say, okay, so my mind is jumpy, it's distracted, it gets into these, highways and byways of thought. I need to bring it back. I need to be willing to put aside all my other concerns right now and really focus, really listen with my whole being. When you do this, it begins to create this magical or alchemical interaction with the teachings. Like I said, the teachings carry a potency. They're transmissions from illuminated mind, and they're just as potent as when they first came off the lips of the ancient sages. And you're that mind. Like this is the no-two-ness of the truth that we're speaking here. What mind realized it in the sage, right? That self is yourself. That's why one of the great sayings of the sages in the Advaita tradition is Tattvam Asi. You are that awareness. There's no other. This is the beauty of these teachings. It's direct, it's immediate, and you're it already. You're the one you're looking for. That's what they also say. Everything you want and think you need to find in the world is your own very nature. The love, the joy, the peace, the abundance, the safety. All of this is already your awareness. Our habit, our belief systems have really veiled that from us. So these teachings come at first seemingly foreign and outside. Eventually, when we start to work through that, internalize them, we begin to realize, oh my gosh, this has been me the whole time. This is who I am. I am this. So keeping the mind on track, keeping it disciplined is really the first gateway. Then the second gateway is you study and you self-inquire. So this is also going to be part of our conversation this morning. So what we're going to be looking at are sacred teachings, sacred texts, scriptures. They carry this potency. These are revelatory experiences that have been put into words. Now, you can find your scripture of choice, whatever you like. It's one of the reasons why I present the smorgasbord on Sunday mornings, to find maybe where you resonate most and pursue that. So the inquiry is very important. Using scriptures and more importantly, I would say, is turning your attention directly onto the I am. So if you're the eternal self that the sages speak of, tat tvam asi, you are that, and that's an eternal reality, and it's the only reality and the only truth, it is God. If you are that, the only reason why we don't know it is we're not paying attention. Our minds are distracted. So the self-inquiry, which is the second gateway into these teachings, is you have to turn your attention around. This change of direction is fundamental. Our normal way of thinking is going outside towards sense objects, bodies and things and people and experiences. We have to change direction in order to experience this true one reality. And that is going back in and inquiring, who am I? Who's the one listening right now? Who's the one that wants to wake up? Who's the one that wants to know God? What is the nature of this I am? The great teacher, Sri Ramana Maharshi, he said that the way that the mind is set up is that it's distracted by second and third person pronouns. So in other words, when we go outside of the immediacy of knowing the I am, we are thinking of second person or you, or third person, us, or we, or they. And he's saying that the I am is there. There's freedom behind you, but because we're paying attention to second and third person pronouns, it looks like we're encased in a wall and we can't get out, or a prison cell made up of second person and third person pronouns. And we can't get out, and we're trying to feel free, but we can't. And what the teacher does, says Ramana, simply taps you on the shoulder and says, just look behind you. Look directly into your I am. When you look into your I am, you'll realize you can just walk around the wall. Our fixation was so in the wrong direction that we felt imprisoned. We're not imprisoned. We're just paying attention to these boundaries and limitations. When we begin to inquire into the I am, it opens up the field of freedom, which is always here. We just weren't paying attention. Then the fourth gateway, finally, third gateway. You should correct me on that. The third gateway is contentment, that when you begin to do these practices, you begin to calm down. Your anxiety level goes really almost to nil, because you're taking your attention off of the world and you realize that you're not the lower mind or the body. You begin to relax, really relax. And you realize that whatever's happening, tornadoes or hurricanes, the loss of everything, even the loss of life, doesn't really affect the self. And everyone is this self. Now, not to know this and to try to comfort somebody by saying this can be the height of insensitivity, right? Because one of the things that comes along is when you are the self, you're compassionate, you're sensitive, you're aware of where other people are and what they're going through. So you don't throw this on them. Oh, you shouldn't be upset because you lost your house and your family. You're the self. You know, this doesn't really help somebody who's still really bought into the ego dream. And so the skillful way of approach is always, being wise and compassionate in the moment. But nevertheless, the fact remains, everyone is the self. Everyone is safe. There are no victims and there really is no loss. But we have to discover that for ourselves, as each one of us has to go through this process of inquiry and discovery. And so when we find this contentment, we begin to really know that nothing in the world can take it away and nothing in the world can give it. We become free of dependency on the world. It's like in the Buddhist teaching, the word nirvana, it can mean extinction or extinguishing, but it can also mean cooling down. When the mind is feverish, it's seeking outside of itself through attachment and aversion, wanting and trying to avoid or fight. When the mind becomes content, it cools down. It's relaxed. It's at ease. And so it's nonplussed by whatever's arising in the environment. This is our natural state. And then finally, the fourth and final gateway, and that is in the Sanskrit satsang. You've probably heard of this, satsang. Satsang is being together. So we're in satsang. This church is satsang. And it's being in this conversation. It's being in the teaching of the wise. It's being together in a field of others who want this. And there's an osmotic and osmosis experience that really does help each and every one of us. We're influencing each and every one here by our willingness to wake up. We're strengthening it in others. We're encouraging, even if it's without words, just in presence. We're enriching everyone's life here. And that goes a long way, because you can, leave satsang today and go about your way, and all of a sudden something comes up in your life experience that may trigger you. But because you were sitting under the teaching and with those among you that want to wake up, there's like this X factor, this hidden potential, this deeper knowing that automatically comes in at the moment of that stressful situation. And you remember, I don't have to be triggered here. I don't have to go into anxiety here. This is going to be okay. I'm going to return to my breath. I'm going to return to calming down and re-entering this sense of contentment and ease that I know is right here if I'm willing to experience it. Okay? So our first reading comes from what's called the Song of the Avadut. This is an Advaita text. And an Avadut is a kind of being oftentimes walking around with just a loincloth, or maybe no loincloth. The Avadut is totally free. And you'll see them in India. If you are familiar with the Siddha Yoga tradition of Muktananda, his guru, Nityananda was an avadut. You can't put them in a box. There's no place they call home. They are miraculous beings. Also, Neem Karoli Baba, you can consider him an avadut, a wanderer, somebody who just shows up. Miracles happen around him all the time. So this idea of the Song of the Avadut is what we're going to be looking at. And so the first chapter, when the Avadut is singing this Gita, this song, singing it about us, right? So whenever you're listening, right, doing this shravana, this listening to the teaching, always remember, this is my song, this is my mind, this is my reality. You get to see the I am is the real heart of true being. There's no other. You're it. Truly, it is by the grace of God that the knowledge of unity arises within. Then a person is released at last from the great fear of life and death. All that exists in this world of forms is nothing but the self, and the self alone. How then shall the infinite worship itself? Shiva is one undivided whole. Right, so they're using the term Shiva as the god, but think of Shiva as it really is translated as the benevolent one, that reality is benevolent. Reality is love, blissful. And so Shiva is one and undivided. So as you're sitting here as the body identity associated with your memories, your thoughts, your conditioning, all of that fragments the I am. So it's no longer I am, it's I am this. I am my body, I am my story, I am my thoughts, I am my passing feelings right now. I am man, I am woman, I am American, I am, a member of Unity Church. Whatever the designation, the I am gets lost in the designation. These teachings are about remembering this one undivided self. Everyone says I am. Everyone. And when you discover this I am, you discover everyone as yourself. The spider, even the mosquito. I've been really hating that part of myself for a long time. Mosquitoes and squirrels and puppies and cats and elephants, and you can begin to see the I am in everyone, right? So the form always changes, but the I am is undivided. And when we change direction and want only to know the I am, we wake up from the dream of separation. And we realize that this one I am is forever in an unbreakable union with itself. The 5 subtle elements that combine to compose this world are as illusory as the water in a desert mirage. To whom then shall I bow my head? I myself am the stainless one. Truly, all this universe is only myself. It is neither divided nor undivided. How can I even assert that it exists? I can only view it with wonder and awe. What then is the heart of the highest truth, the core of knowledge, the wisdom supreme? It is this: I am the self, the formless one. By my very nature, I am pervading all. That one God who shines within everything, who is formless like the cloudless sky, is the pure, stainless self of all, without any doubt. That is who I am. I'm the infinite and immutable one. I'm pure consciousness without any form. I don't know how or to whom joy and sorrow appear in this world. So as these teachings are coming, and you're hearing them, and you're mulling over and conceptualizing them, inquire. One of the ways that you discover, really the primary way in which you discover this unified self, is to see what it's not. So it's going to stir up all of the ways that you try to associate these teachings with what you already know. And it's none of that. That's why the teaching is often described as an undoing, an unlearning, a removing. And so this is put into the Sanskrit as neti neti. Not this, not this. It's not what I'm thinking right now. I can't feel this. It's not my feelings about it right now. I have no memory of this within my ego mind. So as I'm doing this self-inquiry, I'm also letting go of every composite thing, whether it's thoughts, feelings, memories, images, worldly experiences, everything that I've experienced internally, psychologically, or externally in the physical world, ain't it. Makes it very simple. It's a complete denial of the dualistic reality that I've been conditioned to believe is the only reality up until now. I've forgotten my I am. I've fallen asleep. I've gone into amnesia. And so by remembering, you have to first forget. Forget everything you know. Forget everything you've associated with reality. It's not that. What a relief to let go like this. I have no mental karma, either good or bad. I have no physical karma, either good or bad. I have no verbal karma, either good or bad. I'm beyond the senses. I'm the pure nectar of the knowledge of the self. The mind is formless like the sky, yet it wears a million faces. It appears as images from the past or as worldly forms, but it is not the Supreme Self. I'm one. I'm all of this. Yet I'm undifferentiated, beyond all forms. How then do I regard the self as both the unmanifest and the manifest world? And then the Avadut turns to each of us and says this: you also are the one. Why don't you understand? And that's not a rhetorical question. That's your grist for inquiry. Why don't you understand? Look, what's blocking this knowledge, this nectar of who you are from you, from your awareness? Look. You're the unchanging self, the same within everyone. You're truly illimitable. You're the all-pervading light. For you, how can there be any distinction between the day and the night? It seems like a kind of a convoluted or unclear statement, but it packs a punch. For you, how can there be any distinction between the day and the night? In other words, our minds are so fickle and capricious that they change moment by moment. We're taken up by the next thought. We're taken up by the next feeling, the next memory, and we're led down that primrose path of forgetfulness because we identify with whatever comes up next. And so we're alternating and we're shifting and we're flickering and we're changing, and this consistency is not in our mind. So the day and the night are these ever-changing patterns that are showing up within the psychological and the physical worlds. So what do you have to do with these ever-changing, flickering patterns? Stay on point. Bring your mind into one-pointedness. Do you want to wake up? Right? So that's again why these hurricanes and tornadoes and all types of shocks and traumas that the world will dish out can be the best catalysts, because it can finally crack us. It can finally be the breaking point that has us reach our pain threshold. Like, finally, I can't do this anymore. Like you get to that point where you do give up. And it can be, existential breakdown. It could be a clear confrontation with mortality or loss or disease. And it causes you to stop going in the wrong direction. Right? There's another way. That's how A Course in Miracles came about, yeah? that the stress was so overwhelming between the two, Helen and Bill, Helen being the channel for the Course and Bill being her colleague, and together they created that book that we now have. But it all came about when they were so fed up and stymied by their life and struggle that they both said there's got to be another way. And it's not in the world, it's not in the body, it's not in the mind, because that's where all the problems will continue to be. You never find contentment in mind or body. But when you finally get to your breaking point and you're on your knees and you truly ask, it's like from out of nowhere, truly, because it's not in the world, something comes in. There's no road in the mind or the world that can take you there. But when you've reached your pain threshold and you really want to wake up from the suffering of the world, the mind and the body, the way will be provided. Don't miss it. Don't fall asleep at the wheel. Don't neglect the preciousness of these teachings. Understand that the self is continuous being, the one within all, without any division. The I is both the subject and the supreme object of meditation. So there you go. That's where we turn our attention, directly on who's the one that says I. Where does this I arise from? Right, we're all saying it, yeah? Have you ever investigated what this I is? Really looked? Like one-pointedly, without the capricious, fickle, ever-shifting and changing attention, but really stayed on it? Burrowed into it? Who's saying I? It's the same I as Jesus. It's the same I as Bodhidharma and Padmasambhava. It's the same I as Mother Mary. It's the same I as every living entity. There's only one. And you're that. Now, everything you're thinking about it is wrong, as it is with me. I can't think about this. You can't think about this. But we can all experience it. Neither birth nor death pertain to you. You have never been a body. It is well known that all is God. The scriptures have stated this in various ways. You are that, which is both inside and out. You're Shiva. Shivoham. I am Shiva. You're everything, everywhere. Why then are you so deluded? Again, not a flippant question. Why, speaking to all of us, are you so deluded? And then he goes on, the Avadut, and says, why do you run about like a frightened ghost? Again, that packs a wallop. When we are not identified as the true self, we're a ghost. We're a phantom. We're an imagination, right? We're a being constructed within imagination. We're a dream figure. No solidity, no permanence. That's why we can't be at peace. That's why we have anxiety. We're a ghost. Now, connect the dots. If you think you're a body, you're a ghost. Who's the one who thinks it's a body? Inquire. Look. There is no such thing as union or separation for me or for you. There is no me, no you, no manifold world. All is the self, and the self alone. This is echoing A Course in Miracles, where he says, nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists. Right? There is the peace of God when you realize the real has never been threatened, it's never changed. It's a continuum. He says, yourself abides in a dimension of always. And you're here in this dimension, but we just keep taking our attention out of that dimension and paying attention to the arising of our thoughts and our habits and our predilections and our body identity and what we have to do in the future or what we did in the past. We're paying attention to all of these ghostly, phantom-like imaginations. That's why in Gurdjieff's teaching, he says consideration is the primal obstacle to self-knowledge. All of these considerations block us from the direct experience of this one abiding self, this solid I. Finishing up here. Speaking to the heart of our own being, he says, you can't be heard or smelled or tasted. You can't be seen or sensed by touch. Truly, you're the ultimate reality. Why then should you be troubled so? Neither birth nor death, nor the active mind, nor bondage, nor liberation affects you at all. Why then, my dear, do you grieve in this way? You and I have no name, no form. There's contentment in that. O mind, why are you so deluded? Why do you run about like a frightened ghost? Become aware of the indivisible self. Be rid of attachment. Be happy. Be free. Again, you're hearing, hopefully you're taking it in, you're mulling it over, you're inquiring. Where is all of this pointing to? And then you're allowing it to assimilate. Well, our next visit into the non-dual teachings, you may have read this book, many have. It's the teachings of Sri Nisargadatta. I am that, yes? I smile because he was like a bulldozer of false belief, like just this, lightning bolt of burning up anything that was intruding upon the direct experience of the self. So if you're interested, you can go online and see the videos of what he was like in his satsangs. Plenty of his teachings on YouTube. But here are the words of Sri Nisargadatta. Now, he's speaking from the self, yeah? And this is what he says to all of us. The seeker is he who is in search of himself. Give up all questions except one. Who am I? After all, the only fact you are sure of is that you are. The I am is certain. The I am this is not certain. Struggle to find out what you are in reality. So the I am is certain. What you think you are is uncertain. And even if you can say, I am this body, I am a man, I am a woman, it's all composed, if you really break down the constituent elements of what you're associating with and as, it's all composed in the end of these flickering quantum particles. And when Heisenberg was examining the nature of these flickering and quantum particles, he came up with the uncertainty principle. That everything that's arising from this quantum vacuum and taking form as your body, your thoughts, your mind, your memories, this is all the quantum field manifesting seemingly as these separate parts and forms and functions. But it's all made of a fabric that is in of itself completely uncertain, ever-changing, impermanent. The only thing that stays steady, whether you are 2 years old and you're looking in the mirror, or you're 80 years old and you're looking in the mirror, is I am. You were a 2-year-old body. You're not a 2-year-old body now. You were a 16-year-old body. Many of us might want to go back to that 16-year-old body. But the idea is everything is changing constantly. Right? We know this too, that you don't even have the same skeleton that you had 7 years ago. All the dust in your house or apartment is mostly made up of skin cells. Isn't that nice? We are just shedding constantly. Everything's in flux. Everything is impermanent. Everything is uncertain, except, according to these teachings, the I am. That's steady. That never changes. The Maya, the suffering, the getting lost, is when we associate the I am with the ephemeral, with the ever-changing. I am my thoughts. I am my feelings. I am my body. I am the father. I am the son. I am the mother. I am the wife. I am the husband. That's when we get lost. So these roles and these temporary designations become seen through. And then the I am becomes bright and clear. And so Nisargadatta is saying, struggle to find out what you are in reality. Don't keep paying attention to the uncertain and the ephemeral. Because there is ignorance. Right? To know what you are, you must first investigate and know what you're not. Discover all that you are not. Body, feelings, thoughts, time, space, this or that. Nothing concrete or abstract which you perceive can be you. The very act of perceiving shows that you are not what you perceive. The clearer you understand that on the level of mind, you can be described in negative terms only. So in other words, we can't think what we are. We can't conceive of what we are. We can't know conceptually what we are. The mind can't reach the transcendent. But the irony is, the I am is the transcendent. So we have to begin to dismiss what the mind is churning up, settle the mind, control the mind, still the mind. Then we can turn our full attention onto the I am. That's what meditation is for. And if you're interested, I have a course just for you coming up this Tuesday. Our Buddhist course on the Full Awareness of Breathing Sutra, the Buddha taught. This was his primary teaching to bring people into the non-dual state or nirvana. that when you begin to really focus on your breath and you pay attention to your body, your feelings, your mental formations, you begin to not only intimately know yourself, but you also intimately know what you're not. You can also take care of yourself by tuning into the breath and knowing how to breathe in this enlightened way. You're cultivating mindfulness so that you can care for yourself. And so our reading will include Thich Nhat Hanh's commentary on the full awareness of breathing. And he often was fond of saying that when you're dealing with disturbing emotions and difficult traumas and fears, that you hold them like a mother holds her child. That your mindfulness on your feelings, your mindfulness on your anxieties, you begin to really look into them and take care of them and nurture them. And what happens is they are transmuted. So what was once disturbing and keeping you up at night or keeping you out of your state of peace, it finally, because it was acknowledged, deeply looked at, and digested through mindfulness, through conscious breathing, really staying with it and intimately caring for it, it eventually goes back into the ground of pure awareness. Right? So we have these pockets of upset and difficulty, like crying children, within our psyche. And the Buddha understood this. And so to abide as the self, we have to tend our garden. And that's what made him such a brilliant teacher, was he came up with the simplest method of tending the garden of consciousness. Okay? living-acim.com. You can find the link there. So the clearer you understand that on the level of mind, you can be described in negative terms only, the quicker you will come to the end of your search and realize that you are the limitless being. Okay. So our last reading is going to be from A Course in Miracles, and then we're going to sit. We're going to inquire. We're going to abide as the self. But seeing these non-dual teachings that come from India, and then to get it in a different way from A Course in Miracles, I think is very helpful. Let's listen to the way he puts it here. It is only the awareness of the body that makes love seem limited. For the body is a limit on love. So what we are referring to as the self is love. All-encompassing love. No two-ness, which is the state of love. You join so completely with every living entity that in that state of love or union, there's only one self. And you're in this state of limitless love. And that's why in the introduction to this teaching, Jesus will say, what is limitless knows no opposite. There's no fear in this love. There's no fear in yourself. And only this love is real. Only the self is. When we pay attention to the body literally denies that. If you can get sick, if you can get injured, if you can get upset, which the body always displays these things, how can you be limitless love? It really creates a completely different logical syllogism. So if I'm sick, I can't be limitless love. Right? So limitless love can't be sick. I'm sick. Therefore, I can't be limitless love. There's your logic. Okay, guess I'm not limitless love. Life sucks, but I'll make the best of it. I'll try to find limitless love in all of these other bodies and forms and accolades or whatever else I'm going to go look for in the world. Because I've already bought into this false logic. But this is the undoing teaching. You're not the body. This is the entry point, changing direction. The belief in limited love was the origin of the body, and it was made to limit the unlimited. Think not this merely allegorical, for it was made to limit you. Can you who see yourself within a body know yourself as limitless love? So this was Nisargadatta's teaching just now. Your mind, which is associated as the body, can't know the self. So everything your mind thinks is what you're not. It's very unflattering to the ego. But it's the liberation teaching. Because once you realize you're not the mind, you come out of being the ghost, and you're the real. God cannot come into a body, nor can you join him there. Limits on love will always seem to shut him out and to keep you apart from him. The body is a tiny fence around a little part of a glorious and completely limitless idea. Right? That spark of your awareness is God, but it seems to be encased within bone and flesh, like it's behind a fence. The body draws a circle, infinitely small, around a very little segment of heaven, splintered from the whole, proclaiming that within it, within the body, is your kingdom. This is me. John is. God is not. John is. Right? Can I get an amen? Don't we all do that for each other? Hey, Ray. Ray is. Oh, thank you. John is. All right, so God isn't. We get to be another self, and we enroll each other in being fragments so that we have our own little area, our own little kingdom where God doesn't rule, where the oneness is forgotten, and we can do our own thing. It draws a circle infinitely small around a very little segment of heaven splintered from the whole, proclaiming that within it, your body, is your kingdom, where God can enter not. Within this kingdom, the ego rules, and cruelly. And to defend this little speck of dust, it bids you, the spark of pure awareness, to fight against the universe. You're at odds with everything else. Everything else is trying to take from you what you are. Right? It's going to get even more clear as we move along, because he's saying that this infinite oneness is constantly pulling us back towards itself. It is ourself. We're limitless love. That little spark wants to go home. But we have it wrapped up in ego beliefs. I am John. I am a minister. I am this. I am that. And so I have to defend my little fiefdom of association and identity, as you do. And yet the whole time, this oceanic presence of the one self that I am and you are, that little spark is trying to find its way back into the ocean. It's not happy as the body. It's quite miserable as the body. But we've forgotten we're the ocean. And we're so identified as our little associations that we think that now the ocean threatens us with annihilation. Look at what he says. This fragment of your mind is such a tiny part of the universe. Could you but appreciate the whole, you would instantly see that it is like the smallest sunbeam to the sun, or like the faintest ripple on the surface of the ocean. In its amazing arrogance, this tiny sunbeam has decided it is the sun. This almost imperceptible ripple hails itself as the ocean. What does he mean by that? I am John. I exist. I'm real. This little guy in this temporary form exists here. God doesn't exist here. John's here. That's arrogance. It's claiming reality for the unreal. I'm the ocean. Think how alone and frightened is this little thought, this infinitesimal illusion, holding itself apart against the universe. The sun becomes the sunbeam's enemy, which would devour it, and the ocean terrifies the little ripple and wants to swallow it. Right? So that's when we're caught in the fever of the ego. We're fighting against the universe to maintain our identity. But when we start to take these teachings to heart, remember what we're saying, it relaxes the mind. It quiets our being. And it's like the ripple can then melt back into the ocean. Naturally. The ocean's right here. We just need to relax by paying attention to the I am, which is that fragment of the oceanic presence. And once our full attention is back on the nature of the I am, we've tasted the salt water of that divine ocean, and we remember. And we slip back in. Finally here. Yet neither sun nor ocean is even aware of this strange and meaningless activity. The sun and the ocean merely continue, unaware that they are feared and hated by a tiny segment of themselves. Even that segment is not lost to them, for it could not survive apart from them. And what it thinks it is in no way changes its total dependence on them for its being. You can never be separate from the ocean. What's the ripple without the ocean? It doesn't exist. The ripple is the ocean. The sunbeam is the sun. Never separate. We're never separate. I forgot to bring my phone up here. What time is it? 8:57. All right, let's hurry up and meditate. Ready? Go. Isn't that great? Blue bag can go around. Thank you, Ray. Any thoughts, comments, or questions? If you're joining on Facebook or YouTube, you can click the link below and support the 8 a.m. service at Unity. We thank you for your generous offerings. Okay. And we just charge the offerings with the intention that whatever form they may take, may it bring back the memory of our true oneness, so that all beings may be happy and free. And so it is. Amen. All right, my friends, let's seal the deal. Arising as the one, abiding in the moment as the one awareness, breathing the one breath, and coming to know that the light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the power of God protects us, and the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is. All right, amen, yes. Okay. short-term memory loss when you get to be my age. All right, everybody. Have a lovely day. Thank you.